Welcome to the documentary from the BBC World Service, where we report the world, however difficult the issue, however hard to reach. Podcasts from the BBC World Service are supported by advertising.
Okay, let's start. Remember, when we speak clearly, loudly, slowly.
This sounds like an ordinary class in the West German city of Mönchengladbach. But there's a key difference. Mustafa Hamal, the English teacher, is originally from Syria. He's a graduate of a scheme for refugee teachers that retrains them so they can work in German schools.
So now, you know the technique, milling around, stand up. We are going to work in pairs. And when I ring the bell, you have to change your partner.
The students are walking 2 by 2 around the classroom. Every time that bell is rung, the partners switch and they start a new conversation. There's energy in this classroom. The students are moving around excitedly, chatting away in English. Mr. Hamal is tapping in to their language skills. 5 years ago, he was one of more than 1 million refugees who fled the war in Syria and landed on Europe's shores.
The German Chancellor Angela Merkel is expected to outline her ideas for a pan-European response to the migration crisis.
Tonight at 10, thousands of refugees and migrants in Hungary defy the police and set off on foot.
Tonight at 10, a new deal to relocate more than 100,000 migrants within the European Union.
The crisis divided Europe, but Germany opened its doors. German Chancellor Angela Merkel famously said, "Wir schaffen das. We can manage this."
Wir haben so vieles geschafft, wir schaffen das.
Refugees are welcome here.
5 years on, teachers like Mustafa Hamal are finding their way in Germany. They're part of a project that could help Germany solve a problem of its own. The country's population has been gradually shrinking, and that's causing a significant shortage of workers. 1.4 million jobs lie empty, among them 40,000 jobs for teachers. So can refugees help fill the gap? I'm Naomi Sherbel-Ball, and I'll be finding out about Germany's classroom experiment, retraining refugee teachers so they can help tackle the teacher shortage in German schools.
Okay, thank you for today.
The class is wrapping up for lunch, and Mustafa Hamal has now invited me to meet his family. Mustafa's family regularly visits their local Middle Eastern cafe. The youngest of their 2 daughters, Luna, is getting very excited about having some chips. And that's the German word for chips she's using, Pommes. Born in Germany, she's growing up bilingually. But her father remembers another life before Germany, before the war in Syria.
Actually, the life in Aleppo was like a paradise. So at night, it was really, really beautiful to smell the old historical buildings. I had many friends, and you can enjoy your time there because you are among the people who love you and appreciate you. I worked as a teacher of English at high schools and intermediate schools. I can say I enjoyed every single day with my students. So, when they graduate and join the university or become engineers, doctors, or whatever, so you are proud of them. They are the outcome of your effort.
And when was the moment that you realized you had to leave?
It was really hard. I cared for my family and for myself. I just want to live in peace, away from the war. It was really hard to decide to leave your country, your lovely city, and start over.
How did you leave?
In Turkey, I met some guys doing this human trafficking. So I paid about $12,500 to arrange this trip. So they lied to me. They told me that it will be a VIP trip or cruise. You are going to be only 25 people on a small yacht. Then the surprise was we were 80 people. We suffered a lot. It took 5 days to move from Turkey to Italy. We suffered from the lack of water. At the end, we were safe on the border of Italy. While we were on our way to Italy, I could have a signal to call the Italian sea guards. I told them that we need help. We are on our way. So I sent them our position. Then it took about 6 hours later to send a big ship and rescue us. My wife, my daughter, and I.
It must have been a very frightening experience.
It was really frightening. So I can travel anywhere using the plane or using my car, but not using anymore the ships. Aleppo was really in danger because of the daily bombs. I couldn't say goodbye to my mother. It was really hard. Yeah.
Mustafa and his family arrived in August 2015. Germany offered his family refuge, but he had something to offer Germany. With that shortage of around 40,000 teachers, schools here need people like him. Sebastian Krebs is the vice president of the region's GEW Teachers Union in North Rhine-Westphalia. I asked him to describe the shortage of teachers in Germany.
Well, if we look at the people who could become a teacher, they have a wide variety of jobs which they can take. And if they can take a job where they earn twice as much money as doing the teacher job, they will probably do that. So that is one problem. The other problem you mentioned already is the aging population of teachers. More and more older people retire, and there has been a time in the, you can say, 80s when almost no teachers were hired. So there is a big gap that comes mainly out of the 80s or also beginning of the first half of the 90s.
This lack of teachers inspired Miriam Vock, an educational psychology professor at Potsdam University, to see the refugee crisis in a different light.
Yeah, in the summer of 2015, everybody in Germany was talking about the big European migration crisis. And we were discussing about school children entering the German school system and how to integrate them. New classes had to be opened up very quickly. That was the moment when I thought, what about teachers? Could it be that there, among all these refugees, might be some qualified, experienced teachers who would like to work in their profession in Germany? We did a little bit of research about this question, and then we found there are no programs for them. We decided to make a very small pilot project, and we wanted to look for maybe 10, 15 refugee teachers here in the area. The media reported about this idea, and we received more than 600 applications from all over Germany. And then we talked to the ministry, and they were very quick and funded program. And then we started in April 2016 with the first course.
What do you think it meant to the refugees that there was this opportunity to get back into a classroom?
We learned that a very strong motive for most of the teachers is having the chance to do the job they were trained for and that they had chosen before and that most of them really love. And it was important for them to get the chance to teach children again and work in a school.
We'll hear more from Miriam Vock and Potsdam University in Part 2. But it was this programme that later inspired other courses, like this one for secondary school teachers 500 kilometres away at Bochum University.
Wir machen heute einen Unterricht zum Umgang mit Fehlern in der Klasse.
Mustafa graduated from this course just over a year ago. Today there are 23 trainee teachers.
We've been allowed to observe at the back of the class. Today the class is focusing on how to deal with mistakes from their students.
Wenn man vergleicht, dass eine Krankheit oder ein Fehler, dass zum Beispiel...
Here Amin Sadan, a Palestinian from Syria, compares the role of the teacher to a doctor. Both, he says, have to diagnose the illness or mistake and then prescribe a course of action so that the patient, or pupil in this case, can improve.
We need these people to come to us and help us deal with this shortage of teachers.
Dr. Marie van der Beeke is coordinator of the Bochum Refugee Retraining Programme and is taking class today.
We have a lot of refugee teachers who came to our country and who are a great resource for our educational system. On the one hand, they make our system more diverse, they make classrooms more diverse, also from a teacher perspective. On the other hand, we have great teachers coming here to Germany who have a great potential and lots of resources and a lot of experience in teaching. So it would kind of be a waste not to use them.
I'm at the Turkish market in Kreuzberg in Berlin. It's full of energy and activity. We've got vegetable sellers, bakers selling Turkish breads, hipsters and foodies. And this is an example of how Germany's changed. When Turkish immigrants arrived here in the 60s and 70s, they were called guest workers. And the lack of investment into their integration caused long-term problems here. Mustafa's secondary school in Mönchengladbach is an example of this new diversity. Head teacher Werner Müller wants to make sure that this time Germany invests in education for migrants. He told me his pupils come from 43 different countries.
We take refugee children to our school to teach them German first and then put them into classes. It's a great chance for our school to have also a refugee teacher. He knows what the children have seen. He knows how they feel. For example, when you got children from Syria, Libya, something like that, and you train a fire alarm, you don't know what this means to the people if the fire alarm's going on. People like Mr. Hamal, a teacher that's a refugee, he gives you the spirit to think about what children may feel. For the empathy with children, it will be very good.
Not every teacher would understand that a fire alarm might trigger trauma for refugee pupils. But it's just one example of the fresh perspective that these teachers offer. Marie from the course in Bochum told me that some people would be surprised by the influence of the refugee teachers on gender roles. She told me about their impact on studying STEM, that's science, technology, engineering and maths.
One has to say that especially in Syria, there are way more women doing STEM studies than in Germany. So I think that some of the teachers really maybe bring a new perspective on how to motivate girls to be more interested in math, science, and so on. So they're thinking a lot of how they can activate both male and female students. And I think maybe because they're used to teaching in single-sex schools, maybe they reflect on it a little bit more and trying to really get girls into STEM and get boys into languages maybe.
Persuading more girls to go into sciences is a major focus for German schools. In much of Europe, there's a subject gender gap that starts at school and continues beyond university. Women are underrepresented in sciences and maths. In the Middle East, however, that's not the case. There's fairly equal representation. One of Marie's students this year is 35-year-old English teacher Rahaf Adkala from Aleppo. Rahaf says the regime forced her to continue teaching through bombing raids.
We always have to teach the students to be the same, because it's easier for the regime to control the people if they think in the same way. The individuality of the students, or to take care of their needs and what they want to do in the future, is not important. What's important is to be as you are supposed to be. In Syria, I always have to be someone else. I can't be myself. There, I have to be a woman who obey all the rules, the social rules, the political rules. Yeah, it's about being free.
She had to tell students it was safe, even when it wasn't. Anything else would be disloyal. She's now haunted by the memories of Syria, but the best therapy she's found was stepping back into a classroom again, this time in her new home.
We are in Germany, we are safe, and we have our rights as a human being here in Germany, but we always think about the people in Syria, and I always have dreams or nightmares about the people in Syria. So when I visit the school, most of the stress was away, and when I helped the students and showed them how they can learn, this helped me to get rid of this feeling.
At least a quarter of refugees in Germany suffer from trauma or mental health issues. Moving to a new country, mastering a new language and culture takes time. But for now, Mustafa has managed to navigate the German system and flourish.
You know, as you leave your country, you should start from scratch somewhere. And I have the experience. I worked 8 years, but there are many difficulties. I could overcome these difficulties and find a job, but it wasn't easy. Many people told me that it was really difficult to work as a teacher because of the German standards or rules. But I didn't give up. I learned the language intensively, sometimes in courses, sometimes alone. And now I'm here as a teacher of English. Teaching is my passion. I really loved communicating with students to deliver some message and let them improve their skills in English. That's why I kept going on and tried in many situations to work again as a teacher.
What was it like when you were teaching in a classroom again here in Germany for the first time?
I remember my first time when I was there. I couldn't imagine that my pleasure. Okay, I'm here again, so it's my victory. I could achieve my goal finally. But it wasn't finally because the new job gives more responsibility, that I should do my best to keep this position. Nowadays, I keep preparing at home 3 to 4 hours every day to present the best lesson, we can say.
Mustafa's approach has made him popular with his students.
It's impressive, like how he teaches. I think that's a very important thing for a teacher, to be kind, and that's a thing that he does.
He's very respectful, and he's not very strict, and we understand each other very well, and I think that's very nice, and I like him.
I think it was a great idea.
Head teacher Werner Müller says the initiative has a future.
First, you got the problems to get new teachers, and on the other hand, for people that migrate to Germany, you must show them something for the future, jobs that they can possibly do. If someone is employed as a teacher, I think he don't has to work as a bus driver or something like else. Nothing against bus drivers, but if he's got to study for a teacher, he should be a teacher in Germany.
What are some of the challenges been?
I think one of the most challenge for Mr. Hamal is the challenge that every migration has coming to Germany. It's the language. The German language is very difficult. And when you're a teacher in Germany, it's not enough that your German is good. Your German must be perfect.
In the past, Germany has struggled to integrate immigrant groups like the Turkish community, who are today Germany's largest minority. This time, Germany has invested heavily in language and integration classes, though critics say it hasn't been enough. Hans-Olaf Henkel is a former member of the European Parliament. He initially stood for the Alternative for Germany party, but distanced himself when they moved further to the right.
Well, the fact is we are diverse. We have been a country of immigration since decades, but the German public hasn't really ever accepted it. Even the government has not publicly declared we are a country with immigration. In Germany, it was more or less hidden. They didn't want to talk about it.
Do you think it's possible for some of those refugees, for all of them, to enter the workforce?
It is certainly possible for many of them if two things are being done. Number one is we have to offer these refugees a custom-tailored education, which is difficult for Germany because most of these refugees don't speak German. And that makes the integration in this country much more challenging than in most other countries in Europe. So that's number one. Number two, integration is not only a duty of Germany. One has to give the message to the people to be integrated. It's also their duty to be integrated. And that message is not really being sent by the German government.
There's been growing pressure for integration to work. While today, Germany is more diverse than ever before, support for the far right is growing. We are the people, they chant at a rally. I'm Naomi Scherbel-Ball, and in part 2 of Germany's refugee teachers, we'll hear about the challenges refugees are facing as they navigate a new culture to find work in German classrooms.
The documentary is just one of our BBC World Service podcasts. There are many others to choose from.
As the COVID-19 outbreak continues to spread across the world, our Coronavirus Global Update brings you all the latest news twice a day.
On the pandemic, respiratory failure, a national lockdown, basic supplies,
giving you a global perspective on a global story.
South Korea has here in Johannesburg. Iran has announced Italy is
in
now
India.
The US has extended.
Belarus still has
Tokyo.
The Coronavirus Global Update from the BBC World Service. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Now, let's return to the documentary.
Show me your finger. 1, 2, 3, 4.
3-year-old Leia is learning to count in English with her teacher, Ala Kassab. Ala, who's 27, came to Potsdam in eastern Germany after fleeing her hometown of Aleppo. She's just one of the Syrian refugees retraining as teachers and helping to tackle Germany's teacher shortage.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Teddy.
They're celebrating the birthday of one of the teddy bears in the book. Teddy's getting older, and so is Germany. The ageing population is particularly acute here. If East Germany was still a separate country, it would have one of the oldest populations in the world. The shortage of people of working age has left Germany in need of 40,000 teachers. But could the solution lie with refugee teachers like Ala? She told me first why she left Syria.
I could see things getting worse on the daily basis, like with my mom, my dad, my family, not having enough money to even buy medications. But of course there's the shock of actually seeing it in your city happening. Areas being bombed and people having to move out of their houses because they can't live there anymore. Every time I left the house, my parents didn't know whether I was coming back or not. It was always a risk. At some point I was like, okay, this is not working.
So how did you leave?
I asked my parents and they said, no, you're crazy. You can't leave on your own. Like, a girl from Syria leaving on her own was not so common. And then I told them, I know what I want and I know that I can do it and you have to let me go. So they accepted and I took off. Of course, there was no guarantee because we needed to be smuggled to the seaside of Turkey, because if the police see the people wanting to leave Turkey illegally, they would arrest them. And then comes the sea. People check the weather, see if the sea is calm enough for the journey, because the boat is very flat and not so durable. It's a rubber boat, and there were a lot of people on it that we were pushing and sitting on top of each other. You sort of stop being afraid because it becomes part of your daily life. You get stronger. You get yourself used to the fear and the pain of losing someone, for example. And during my trip, I knew that I was risking my life going to Germany, just like I was risking my life staying back home. That's why it sort of gave me courage to go through the journey.
What was that moment like when you arrived?
There was a lot of joy that we were on land and not in the water anymore. We immediately saw people, volunteers that wanted to help, immediately offered if we need anything, if we're cold, need water, medications. And that was a nice feeling of people being there, caring about other humans, regardless of where they come from and what's their situation. That was just a lot of joy.
Alla arrived in Germany in December 2015. She was one of the original graduates of the teacher training program in Potsdam, the first of its kind. She's now working in a kindergarten, but not as a school teacher.
The more I learned about the teacher's job and study in Germany, the more it got me actually a bit depressed, because I figured that the system is very complicated.
And did you think that the course prepared you adequately to be a teacher here?
No course could prepare anyone to be a teacher here, because the course was only for 1.5 years, and most of it was learning the German language, while being a teacher here, like the actual studying part, takes so many years. I knew that the program was a very good step to help me get back into the career, but I wasn't sure if it was enough or not. The future was not so clear. The plans weren't made far ahead. So the first plan was that after we finish the program, the ministry has agreed that we will get the chance to work in a school for 2 years. And in these 2 years, we can ease our way into the system. We can learn practically how the things are being done in the school and already get experience. Plans weren't made after the 2 years.
You thought that you would be able to teach after doing this course, and that didn't materialize.
Yes. Well, in the school where I was very happy. I could work with children again, which brings me a special joy. And after the 2 years were over, they didn't need an extra English teacher at my school. They already had enough.
I visited the course that Alla graduated from at Potsdam University.
Genau, noch eine zweite Information. Ich habe euch schon, glaube ich, in der letzten Woche darauf hingewiesen, dass wir eine Tagung machen.
I was really struck in that classroom how all of the students were intently focused on the minutiae of their next steps as they try to become teachers here. And the question looming behind the teacher in the classroom is really fundamental, is really symbolic in terms of their next steps of integration in Germany. Will they be able to get a job?
Die sind leider jetzt nicht in Frage.
The programme's success so far has been mixed, and less than half of those who have enrolled since 2016 have teaching jobs. Last summer, this course was downgraded by the local education ministry. Now, Potsdam graduates will only be able to apply for jobs as teaching assistants rather than full teachers. That's a problem for students like Zara, a French teacher from Aleppo.
Ich brauche Unterstützung.
I need support. I need people to accept me working at a school, that they give me a chance. If the school says no, we don't want a teacher from Syria to work with us, then I can't go any further. If that happens, I can throw everything I've learnt away, and I don't want that. I've worked a lot, studied a lot, and with my family, it's getting harder and harder. My husband has stayed at home with my son, so I can continue with the programme, so that I have a chance to benefit from my studies.
While the Potsdam course has been struggling for acceptance in the teacher job market, the other challenge facing refugee teachers is for acceptance in wider German society. Miriam Vock, founder of the Potsdam course, says navigating new cultural sensitivities can be a challenge.
So in most cases it was really good, a good experience. But of course in some very few cases there were some problems. In some cases I remember when a female teacher wore a headscarf, and we don't have a law in the federal state of Brandenburg where we live here that would prohibit wearing a headscarf as a teacher. But of course there are discussions. And at some schools there were teachers who wouldn't accept working together with a teacher wearing a headscarf. But it could be solved when we were talking with the schools, the school leader. I think in one case the refugee teacher changed the schools and then it was okay. Interestingly, we had another case where a Muslim female teacher didn't wear a headscarf, and there were Arabic parents at that school who wouldn't accept her as a teacher because they thought she's a Muslim, she has to wear a headscarf, and she doesn't. So that was another problem. Yeah, but that also could be solved. I think of another female teacher wearing a headscarf, and she didn't have any problems at school, but I liked what she told me because she told me that during Ramadan she saw that little children didn't eat and didn't drink, and it was very hot in the summer, and she said they don't have to. And she talked to the parents and told them that little children do not have to fast during Ramadan and they should drink to be able to study at school. So I think that was very, very good to have a Muslim teacher being able to do these conversations with other parents, which a German Christian or teacher wouldn't be able to do that.
While Miriam sees these teachers as an asset in Germany's more diverse classrooms, critics say that many refugees don't have the skills Germany needs.
I think this argument that this immigration is helpful to the German economy is not really true.
Hans-Olaf Henkel was previously head of the Federation of German Industry and also a former member of the European Parliament. He was elected as a representative for the Alternative for Germany party, but left in 2015 before it shifted further to the right.
It is absolutely correct that Germany needs immigration. But we need immigration like Britain wants it, or like Canada and the United States has it. That means those countries select the people. In this particular case, the people select the country. This is a different situation in this country. We have people here who come with skills who are generally not sufficient to be integrated into the German labor market. Let's face it. It is not true that all Syrians are medical doctors. There are some, and we use them. And it is not true that all people from Iraq are plumbers. There are some, and we use them. But most do not have that education. And by the way, they don't even speak our language. This is a superb challenge, I would say, which Germany has. And by the way, one should not forget what I would consider a very serious negative byproduct of that refugee situation in 2015. That is the rise of the right-wing party Alternative für Deutschland.
Since refugees arrived in 2015, there's been rising support for the far right, and the Alternative for Germany Party, or AfD, is today the main opposition group in Parliament. Much of their rhetoric targets refugees and immigrants, and it's raised tensions. Mr. Müller, the headmaster we heard from in part 1, experienced this when he hired Mustafa Hamal.
I got 2 bad reactions on Mr. Hamal on the internet, but I think this was behavior against foreign people in our country. If it would be the teacher, Mr. Hamal, or it would be with the cook from India, it wouldn't be different. So I think that are opinions in Germany that some people have. For good, it's only Minderheit, it's only
a minority.
A minority, yes.
What kind of a problem does that create for you when parents say that they're not comfortable with refugees in the class, or it's affecting their child's education?
I have to answer in 2 parts. The first part is very simple. The first part is I'm a principal for a German school. So I'm Beamter, it's called in German.
You're a civil servant.
Yes, so if parents tell me they don't want refugees in their class, or they don't like it, or I tell them the law says that these children will visit this school. Finished. So that's a very easy part, because it's a part of my job. The other part is my own opinion. Refugees in class is, for our school, it makes the class richer. It makes the pupil richer. So there is a very funny word in Germany. I told the children they're driving Japanese cars, they're listening to American music, they're eating Turkish food, and now there's someone from another country sitting next to him, and this can't work. So that's silly. And I told you we got 43 nations at this school. At this school there's no place for being afraid or hating refugees.
Altena is a beautifully scenic town built around a river, deep into the surrounding hillsides. Its population in the 1970s was over 30,000, but today it's almost half that. The town has a curiously empty feel. A number of houses are boarded up. They lie empty, and there are for rent signs in the window.
The government argued that taking in so many young refugees could rejuvenate towns like Altena. Initially, Angela Merkel's decision led to overcrowded refugee centres and stretched police forces. Despite this, Andreas Holstein, Altena's mayor from the ruling Christian Democratic Union, offered to take more than the town's share of refugees.
I was in Athens and I saw the pictures, and I felt ashamed because this was not Europe as I have it in my mind. But when I came back, I thought what we can change. A simple mayor of a simple small town can't change the world or Europe or Germany. And we asked the regional government in Düsseldorf to take 100 refugees more. Because we thought, okay, we can integrate them, they might stay here, this was the idea. Of course, many refugees have also the idea of the bigger cities because they know them, and they don't know that also small and medium-sized cities have the opportunity to offer jobs. There is a lack of workers. We offered language courses from the first beginning, and we don't put them together in one house as it is common in Germany. Therefore, in 2017, we got the German Integration Prize out of the hands of Angela Merkel.
And you yourself have been targeted because of your stance on refugees.
A lot of hate mails and threats, and through internet or in the Facebook and Twitter. And I discussed with my wife. My wife said, okay, it might be that someone will sometimes threat you in reality. I said, okay, I don't know, but I don't think, because it's a sleepy little town, nothing will happen. And then in end of November 2017, someone came and stabbed me with a 30 centimeter knife.
It wasn't an isolated incident. Over the last year, there have been over 1,000 politically motivated attacks on politicians and officials in Germany. To understand the challenges facing refugee teachers, it's important to recognise this change in the political atmosphere.
It was a situation in the kebab shop where he asked me, "Are you the mayor?" And I answered, "Yes, I'm the mayor. Can I help you?" This is a normal question answer, because many people are a little bit shy to ask questions. And then he took the knife out of his bag and was behind me and put it to my throat. And he said, "You left me thirsty, and on the other hand, you invited 200 people to come here." And this is not the truth. 100 people, and I was not inviting them. We decided to help a little bit.
While not all Germans may see their country as diverse, 1 in 4 people here are now either first or second generation immigrants. Mariam Lau is the political correspondent for German weekly Die Zeit.
When it comes to our national football team, people are even proud of this diversity, and I think that many people in the bigger cities are enjoying diversity and multiculturalism. One big problem is the divide between East and West. In East Germany, there's the feeling that, oh, you want to integrate all these migrants, why don't you integrate us first? I'm not saying they are right in this sentiment, but that's one sentiment we have to deal with and live with. And that is one sentiment that brought up the rise of right-wing populist party, the AfD, because especially in the East, people feel, no, why are we taking in so many refugees, and why is there all this money all of a sudden to support them when our bridges are crumbling and so on, and that there should be much more investment into us, basically. So that's one problem we have to deal with. There's a very different attitude towards multiculturalism in different areas of Germany.
Marwa Abdulkader, a 32-year-old English teacher who lives in the same state as Altena, told me she hasn't encountered any racism despite wearing a hijab. She fled Hasaka in northeast Syria with her husband and 2 young children. A fan of scary American movies before the war, she said she can no longer bring herself to watch them. The horrors she's seen have been too real.
It was chaotic. It wasn't so stable. We didn't know when conflict will begin. We didn't know if we sleep at night. We didn't have enough water. We didn't have enough electricity. The children didn't have places in the schools. Everything was chaotic.
Arriving in Germany in 2017, Marwa has been doggedly focused on returning to some sense of normality. Her biggest challenge is starting again. I asked her how she has rebuilt her life.
I planned it on the basis that we have to learn the language at first. We have to communicate to other people here, especially our German friends. My children went to the kindergarten, I went to school, my husband also went to school. We arranged it that we have to work here, to learn and to work and to continue our jobs that we made in Syria, that we work here as teachers as well.
Marwa was desperate to return to teaching, but the course is oversubscribed and she hasn't been accepted.
It would be everything to be in a classroom again. I was disappointed that I wanted to continue my job here, especially it is a job that I love. It's not only a job that I make money from. That's why I hope maybe next year it will be good when they accept me.
So you will apply again?
Yeah, I will apply again.
The demand from refugee teachers like Marwa who want to work outstrips the number of places available. In Bochum, there are 10 applicants to every place. If integration is to succeed, Mustafa Hamal says the initiative needs to grow. Otherwise, Germany will fail to make the most of this unexpected resource.
More teachers are longing for working again as teachers since they left their countries. I think the labor market needs more and more teachers, but it depends on the supporters who will finance this program.
Miriam Vock, the founder of the Potsdam retraining program, says she knows there are more refugee teachers wanting to work.
Already now there are more than 10,000 people in the country who have come here as refugees and who have worked in a teaching profession in their home countries. So there are many people waiting for their opportunity to get a qualification here and be able to work again. We can't afford to leave them doing other jobs because we need them as teachers.
Germany needs to make sure that refugees get jobs as quickly as possible. For now, there's progress. Currently, 1 in 2 refugees is working within 5 years of arriving in Germany. So can refugees be a remedy for Germany's teacher shortage? Mr. Müller, the head teacher in Mönchengladbach, believes teachers like Mustafa Hamal are needed in German classrooms.
2 months ago, we were asked if we will go on with the program, and we said yes. It wasn't just to do something good to Mr. Hamal, because no, we feel that it's the right thing, and I think it is a good way for Germany to solve problems with teachers at schools. Yes, we don't have enough teachers in Germany, and we have people from other countries that are looking forward to get a good job. So if someone is well ausgebildet, is well educated, we should use this education for our society. And Mr. Hamal will help us, and colleagues of Mr. Hamal will help us to get more teachers, get more good teachers to school, I think.
But it's not straightforward. Ala Kassab has struggled to find work. But for her, the experience of training in a classroom in Germany was a symbolic step.
It was a lot of joy. Of course, it was very different, the setting, the language, everything. But there were still a lot of similarities. Children all over the world are the same. They're all children. Even if they speak another language, they're still very open, very friendly, interested in meeting new people. At school, I always had the questions of, what's your mother language? And how would you write my name in Arabic? And where are your family? And it was just full of life.
What did it mean to you when you reached Europe?
It was a relief to know that the risky journey was finally over, to know that I achieved my goal after all this journey, to know that now I have a place where I can start all over and have a safe life.
It seems refugees can fill some of the gaps. For this to work, however, both refugees and Germany need to make a long-term commitment, and each has their own half of the bargain to keep. But if they succeed, both Germany and refugees like Mustafa can reap the rewards.
I did a lot. I spent nights and days to achieve my goal. So now I'm here. I'm a teacher of English in Germany. It's my passion. So I studied at the University of Aleppo. I completed my bachelor in English literature. I worked 8 years as a teacher for English. So now, what should I do? I should keep dreaming. So there is no plan B. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. There will be more.